Okay, everyone. I think we can start. We're on time. So I'll just do a brief introduction. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today, and thank you to the folks watching the recording version of this conversation as well. I'm Luiza. I work as a discoveries manager at Algrano. I used to be a roaster before I joined the company. And today we're talking about demystifying digital relationships in the coffee supply chain. So the first thing I want to say to introduce this conversation is that direct relationships with coffee producers are available to every roaster today thanks to technology. And that these relationships, they are vital to the industry, not only because they help us build a more equitable supply chain, but because they are also good for business. They help roasters who want to differentiate themselves, and they lead to new and more exciting ways to explore coffee in an industry that we know is very competitive. As a quick reminder, all attendees are welcome to share their experiences about direct relationships on the chat session of this webinar, and you can also send questions via the Q&A button during the whole thing, so we can run the Q&A session later on. And as people watching this are mainly new people to Algrano, I would like to ask Richard here, he's one of our sales managers, to give you a quick overview of Algrano. So Richard, I know you say this to roasters every day, but please indulge me. So what is it that Algrano is doing, and what digital solutions the platform brings to facilitate relationships?
Okay, yeah, this is always the $1 million question, right, for us. What makes us different, I guess. I mean, I think that what the space we're in, or what we enjoy, is, maybe I should give the background. I used to work more at the sourcing end at green coffee, and I think what we're looking at, or what we're doing as Algrano, is trying to make it possible, making it possible so that a roaster and a grower can connect, and without feeling that they're ignoring the part which is all the hands that touch a coffee bag between a farmer producing it and it ending up with a roaster, without it then creating a barrier between them, because it always has to happen. The coffee still goes in a container, it still moves on a truck into port, and it still comes off the container and goes up to someone's roastery. But that doesn't have to be a block. So we put it all online, and we try to make it transparent and easy and simply, hopefully competitively priced, and therefore so that the roaster and the grower can concentrate on the conversation that's really interesting between them, which is the green bean and how it gets produced and how it can fit better the relationship that they would like.
So concentrate on the fun stuff, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's the exciting bit.
And Susanna, you are in sales too. And I'm going to ask you this question because we get it a lot from new roasters to just join the platform. Is that what exactly is it that you're selling?
So that's a really good question. And like you said, we get asked this question a lot. So at Algrano, we're not selling coffee. We're facilitating direct trade relationships between growers and roasters. So through the Algrano platform, roasters can choose different services that they want to have through us. For example, logistics, financing, warehousing. So yeah, basically Algrano does all the necessary work so that roasters can really focus on building those relationships.
As Johan told me before, so we do the boring stuff so they can do the fun stuff. That's
exactly.
Means, well, so let me move then to our special guests. We have here today Johan Ekfeldt. He's the founder of Gringo Nordic in Sweden. And we have Benedikt Heitmann, founder of Neues Schwarz. Did I say that right? Because I'm really bad with my German, so
more or less, yeah.
Okay, so in Germany. So they're two very experienced roasters, and they are in charge of sourcing coffee for their businesses. And we invited them here today to talk about what they gain from direct relationships with coffee producers, and how digital tools like Algrano help to make their lives easier. So we'll discuss the benefits of buying coffee directly, the challenges of it, and the planning involved. So if you guys can start just telling me a little bit about what you think is the biggest advantage of having a direct relationship, and what role does that play in your business? I don't know if Benedikt, you want to start first, and then Johan can jump in afterwards.
Yeah, sure, I can do. So I just give you 2 or 3 sentences about Neues Schwarz. We are specialty coffee roastery in Dortmund, which is in the western part of Germany. We started 2015 with the business, and me personally, I started 2011, 2012, roasting for another company in the south of Germany. And my idea was, when I started in coffee, I never had a relation to coffee before, but the quality was what made it for me very interesting. I had the idea to trade coffee as direct as possible, and that was in the beginning of my coffee career. That was pretty difficult because there were just a few traders on the market, which let us get an idea how, for example, Ethiopian coffee could taste in the range of 86 to 88 points. So that developed over the years a lot, and my idea was to trade coffees in general, as direct as possible, and build relationship with growers in a long term. So that is for our company pretty, I think it's pretty key factor if we look on our philosophy. So, and Algrano is for us more or less the perfect platform for that, because we get input from origins. So we met their new growers, or we met their growers who are also on the platform, and we have the chance to establish relationship, or to start and look for the next season to raise that. That's for us, pretty good way to establish through the platform.
And Johan, what would you say for you is like the biggest advantage
of a direct trade? Well, I think direct trade is very, it's very complicated. It's a complicated word. I used to have another company where we started to sell our coffee with sort of a direct trade logo. We made our own logo, very sort of influenced by I think it was counterculture. That was really big in the States doing this. And then we sold it to a customer in Denmark. And then Coffee Collective came along and said, hey, we trademark direct trade in Denmark. You can't use that here. So we decided to trademark it in Sweden. So that company now owns, my former company actually owns the direct trade. So when I decided to start Gringo, which is my current company, we started it 2 years ago, I decided to not use direct trade as a word. I want to do direct trade, of course. I sort of source direct in a lot of the times, but I very, very seldom buy direct. So it's, and I think it's really, really confusing. People use direct trade in so many different ways, and very seldom I would say it's direct, because sometimes you have a farmer, usually a very small farmer, that needs some kind of exporter in order to mill the coffee. And then, and for me, if it's a bigger batch, most of the time I can't afford to put the coffee in my warehouse, and especially not during the summer when it's really hot in the roastery. So usually I'm really dependent on a lot of people, but at its core, I think direct trade is sort of a relationship coffee, because you want to work with people that are passionate and are sort of closest to their craft as possible. And if you're gonna just buy coffee from a list from Hamburg, where you just have a lot of salespeople pitching this and that coffee, they don't have like a personal opinion about the coffee most of the time. So I think direct trade, well, this relationship trade or whatever they call it, is sort of essential for me at least, a meaningful company. If that makes sense.
You mentioned spot, like buying spot, and when I was a roaster, I used to remember that the feeling that I had was that it's really convenient, but it's like buying at the supermarket, that you pick this and you pick that, but you don't get any like real feel of what you're buying. And you, so you were talking a little bit about the whole process, like how many people the coffee goes through. Can you explain us a little bit more about how it was for you, like before you had a platform like Algrano, and now how has the process changed? Because the coffee is still like passing through loads of different hands, but is it easier for you? Do you don't have to worry about certain things that you had to worry about when you were buying directly before?
Well, more or less, very, very seldom I bought direct. Of course, you can buy direct from a big farmer in El Salvador, Guatemala, or Brazil, and so on. But in a lot of the times, they're just steps behind. And what was important for me in the beginning when we started direct trade model with my former company was to have a transparency sheet, basically, so that everybody involved in sort of the business knew whatever the cost was. So basically we broke down the cost, and that was all in all the contracts we did. And that was sort of the basis so we could call it direct trade. But that's what you do. I mean, at Algrano, you break down the cost. And I think that's a fine thing. When I saw, first you have a beautiful platform, which is, very, very slick. It's easy to use. A lot of nice pictures, scores, you have it all. But for me, most of it, the best thing is that you don't have to ask for information, you just get it. I mean, you have the information. Usually you ask for a lot of information from people, and then most of the time you get it. But you sort of serve it without me asking, and that's what I really appreciate with Algrano.
And Bene, for you as well, do you think what's the difference between like when you source directly and when you buy spot coffees? Because I think you still do a mix of the both things.
Yes. We have a few origins that we still buy from traders that are in Hamburg, in Berlin, in Amsterdam. Depends mostly on the origins and on the cup profiles we are looking for. But we do, for example, most of our Brazilian coffees, currently a lot of the centrals with Algrano. And what I like is that we do not use, in the end, the platform. We communicate direct with the producer. So I'm not writing you an email and you write the email, or you give that to the producer. We have through Algrano, we have the contacts to our producers or the cooperatives we work with, and we can ask them direct. What's going on in origins? How is coffee quality? How is all this stuff we want to know before we buy the coffee, and that made it pretty easy. So the direct contact to our growers, and that's not in every case, but we try to focus on that and communicate more with our growers. That's something definitely benefit we have to through the platform, the direct contact.
Would you say is harder work when you do it, like when you source directly? You have to work harder to get the coffee, or you have to work harder to find what you want?
I think it's during the year it's more work, definitely, but that's what I want. you know, it's something Johan told before. It's not like looking on a list and looking, okay, I want that region, I want that producer, I want 50 bags of a yellow bourbon. It's more like you have to work for it, and you have to give your producer in an earlier stage of the season an idea what you will need for the next season. And this discussion, we didn't have that before in the beginning. So, and that's what I really appreciate.
So when is it that you start getting in touch with a producer? So, you know, I will need, let's say I need a coffee from Brazil for my blends or for my main espresso. And
yeah.
When do you start talking to the producers that you work about what do you need, when you can get it, how you can organize it?
I think we start something in February, March. Brazil is, the harvest is starting right now, or is now starting. And we give us updates, what is especially currently with Corona, what's happening in Brazil, what's happening in Europe, how is our business running, how can we through this disease. And that's something I talked to the guys in March, I think, a few times, because they were also interested in what's happening in Europe. I mean, it's one of their main markets, so they also have to look how they can sell their coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Johan, is it similar to you? Do you start talking to them like much in advance?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I mean, we have I mean, with the producers that I'm closely linked with, we have sort of a constant communication. But a lot of the people I work with now, I've known them for quite some time, and a few of them have been to my home and stuff like that. One of the farmers we work with in El Salvador has, you know, I met him the first time in Sweden. So it's more of I mean, it's most of the time it's a really friendly, it's sort of, well, often you become friends. So that's one of the good things with, you know, more direct trade, is that you actually get new friends all over the world. And the funny thing is, because I sold my former company and I was out of the coffee business for 3 years. And that's what I realized, how small my world became when I suddenly didn't have this, you know, constant communication with people all over the world. I never thought of that way, that was one of the really, I mean, the big things about direct trade is actually have, you know, people, you have a reason to meet and travel and talk to people all over the world. I mean, that's amazing. It's not a lot of industries that has that opportunity, I think.
And I wasn't going to bring coronavirus up, but because you guys...
Sorry.
Well, we can't travel at the moment. And well, so how are you guys managing these relationships right now? And what's the forecast for the coming year, really? Because we don't know how or when it will be possible to travel again. So I don't know if you had plans to travel this year, if you had to postpone it, if you're trying to be in touch more via Skype or via WhatsApp.
Shall I start?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I had a trip to Colombia that was cancelled, and I also have a farm in Cauca, and we have we have the crop now, and it's really frustrating to not be able to be there. Especially we had so much trouble with tornadoes and trucks that has broken down, and really hard to find people to pick the coffee and stuff like that. So I think. But at the same, so that's been really troublesome for me. But at the same time, it's been really nice just staying at home, working in the roastery, just focusing on, you know, ordinary everyday business. Because as a roaster, I mean, there's always people wanting to meet you. I mean, the producers want to meet you, the customers want to meet you, and suddenly no one wants to meet you. You can just focus on being at home, roasting, cupping, doing whatever. And I mean. And you realize what a beautiful technology the World Wide Web is. I mean, you can really talk to people. And it's, yeah, for me, it's worked out fine.
For me in the end also. So it's, we use WhatsApp or whatever technology that lets us communicate with our producers. So that's not really a problem. It's me personally, I haven't planned any trip this year, but we had 2 of our team members who planned to go to the Centrals, to Guatemala and Costa Rica in March. That was skipped. Yeah, it was 2 weeks after Corona.
Mm-hmm.
So not this year.
No, I guess I traveled in February, and it was just before the cutoff. Like I came back and you couldn't go anywhere anymore. And the other thing I wanted to ask is that I know for Johan, Algrano is, we do more like shipping services for you, and Benedikt is more, we do sourcing and more like all the financing and everything. So could you guys just talk a little bit about how Algrano has helped you make sourcing directly possible? Or how do you...
Sourcing is, so we have a few regions, I would say, that we focus on Algrano. That is Brazil. That is, this year we bought 2 lots from Honduras, and then Ethiopia, something I dreamed of for a longer time. So trading coffee from Ethiopia more direct than just buying it on spot from a list. Yeah, and it's like in the end we get the samples. So if we we look on the list, on your list, to be honest. But that's how it starts with the relationship. So we start usually with smaller amounts, and if we like the coffee, and also we look how our customers react on the coffee and how they like it or how they buy it, then we grow our demands during the years. So that's the idea of buying through the platform in the end.
Johan, can you talk a little bit about the shipping, how you organize it?
Now we have 3 different shipping with Algrano. And the first one is from Colombia, and there we had some smaller micro lots, and I asked Susanna if you had any containers coming, and you did, and we sort of got your exporter together with my exporter. It seemed to have worked fine. I actually last year, from the same exporter I tried to do whatever you are doing. So basically I bought a lot of, I sort of facilitated a lot of different lots with different roasters. And so I think we had coffee from so many farmers. I think we had 30 different lots, and I then shipped them out to 10 different roasters, all in Germany. And I just realized how much work that is, whatever you are doing. And I just realized it's not part of my core business to do that. So, and it was a good learning experience, because the container was coming to me, I had to repack everything, I had to invoice everybody, all of that. So it was not for me. So that's why from Colombia. And then then you had a full container with a lot of lots from El Salvador. And I had, I think 40 bags or something from one producer and some other bags from another. And it just and they got connected with the exporter that you work with in El Salvador. And hopefully that's going to work nice. I got the pre-shipment sample actually today, so I look forward to that. And then for Ethiopia, Susanna was just so proactive, and she was the first one to actually send me some really nice samples, and I took advantage of that. And and we did 180 bags, I think, or 170 bags. So it's yeah, that's how it works. I mean, what I like is that, because I mean, coffee importers are usually very, very reactive. They react on whatever. You call them or you email them and say, I want this, I want that. Do you have anything? It's very seldom that they call you and say, hey, Johan, what do you want? What are your needs for the coming year or whatever? And can I send you these samples? I think you will like it. I mean, it's really, really reactive business. So I really appreciate that people are proactive, and I try to, you know, sponsor that if I can.
Okay, cool. So as most people are new to Algrano watching this, I just made a little video on how to order samples and how the checkout cart works. So I'm just going to share my screen with you so you can see it. It's very quick.
Wow, that was fast.
It was really fast. And I think I've generated some fake sales in the platform as well by doing that. I'm sorry. So yeah, so that is just like a very quick overview, and it's a bit of a break from the conversation as well. I just want to remind everyone that Q&A is open. Like, we have a button, I think it's below for everyone, below the screen. Whatever questions you want to send, please feel free. We're going to have a Ask Us Anything session at the end. So you can send questions to Johan, Benedikt, but also to Susanna and Richard about how the platform works as well. And
I can see that Angel Magana is with us. He's a producer I buy coffee from in El Salvador.
Yes, both Fabricio from SanCoffee are here. And I'm actually inviting them to join us now. Angel, I can see. Let me see. Fabricio, you're. Hello.
Hello, Luiza. How are you doing? I can hear you.
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for promoting me.
No worries.
Now I am a panelist. Hello, Susanna, Ben. How are you doing?
Hey, Fabricio.
Good to see you.
Angel, are you there as well? I think he's okay. There are two Angel. Angel? Hello? Angel, can you hear us? Okay, I don't think he can. Angel, can you say something? Okay, so I wanted to invite Angel and Fabricio as a bit of a surprise, because it's really nice of them to join us. So Angel is from Finca Olimar in El Salvador. I don't think his video is quite working, but Fabricio is with us. Fabricio is from SanCoffee in Brazil, and he works with Benedikt. And I just want to give you the chance to say as well, like for producers, for you as producers, why is it that relationships are so important, and how do they make a difference for you?
Can I start?
Of course.
Yes. Yeah, we have been thinking a lot about this very important question, and we have been. It's very clear for us nowadays that the main outcomes out of these direct relationships that we build, we constantly build and improve alongside the roasters with of Algrano, is that we can bring more actively the value addition to our growers. And also it's very important to bring back recognition to the workers, the hard work that all the growers do. And it's very important because there are concrete results out of this value addition and recognition. And here in Brazil, and I have noticed in other origins with where I had the opportunity to travel, that both results combined have been attracting back young generations to the coffee growing industry, which is the best proof that this model really works. So I am very confident, and I only have to say thank you to Algrano and for the roasters on behalf of Benedikt, because it plays a very important role in our lives here in the origin.
All right, thank you. And I don't know if Angel can already join us and say something. No, I don't think so. So Fabricio, thanks for your words. And I wanted to just ask something now that is a bit less serious, maybe, because one of the best things about having these relationships, as you guys were saying, is that it's fun. It's human. You get to meet people, you get to make new connections, and you can do the more interesting part of the job of being a roaster. So I want to ask, like, what are your best memories of direct relationships, and what are the funny things that happen throughout your career as a roaster, sourcing coffees directly from producers?
Will you start, Johan, or should I?
At a moment.
Okay. I share a story which is, for me, was one of the key moments, I would say, when I realized that relationship coffee that's what I want to do. And that was when a producer from El Salvador, Carolina, we work with her for 5 or 6 years now. And she was traveling Europe, I think 3 years ago. And that was for us we didn't knew that early. So it was quite a few days before she told me, hey, I will be in Germany. I will come around. So we had her coffee, I think it just landed. So we hadn't roasted any of her coffee. Tried to bring it to our bar, so roasted, had a few days for resting the coffee, and then she had the opportunity to taste her coffee the first time ever outside of El Salvador at a customer. There was, I think, for both of us, very special moment, and that gave me the feeling that we're on the right way. So that was something I always remember when I think of relationship coffee. So it's not just going to a farm level and visiting producers. I think it's also the way for them to the consuming countries, tasting their coffee and seeing how what we are doing with their product. And also Fabricio and Alan, I think you've been 2017 at our place. I think so. That was also very, very nice.
Okay, shall I continue? Well, I have one funny thing and one more serious. The fun part is, I mean, a few years ago when I lived in Stockholm, a farmer came along and he stayed for like a week in our home. And he brought his kid, who was, 13, really teenagey at the time. And then the day before he left, or maybe the same day, he just told us, well, I had this idea that Gabriel, whose the kid's name was, maybe he could stay with you for the summer. Work in your coffee shop, spend some time in the roastery and stuff like that. And it turned out he stayed for the whole summer. I think he stayed like 6 weeks with us in our home. We had no planning whatsoever, and he was zero interested in coffee. I mean, he just wanted to play video games and do whatever a teenager at the age of 13 wants to do. That was crazy. But a more serious thing was that we had like a small meeting in Nicaragua in a hotel, just a very spontaneous meeting with some farmers. And at the end of the meeting, I said, do you want to try? And it was really new with naturals at the time. This was more than 10 years ago. And I had this natural done by Graciano Cruz in El Salvador that I was really excited about, the Pacamara. And for me, that was so, mind-blowing and new at the time. And we had this cupping with these farmers, and most of the farmers just thought it tasted really weird because they were used to fully washed coffees. But one of the guys, Luis Baladares, he got really excited about it and asked, is it okay if I start trying this on my farm and on my mill? And that's what he did. And now he's huge on, a few years later, he's huge on naturals. He won the Cup of Excellence a few times, and it's and I feel I was sort of a small part of his sort of evolution as a coffee farmer happening. And now it's a huge mill. But that was also because at the time I said, well, go crazy, go bananas, do whatever you want to do when it comes to experiments and stuff like that. That's sort of the backside of direct trade. And then he did, he had so many varieties, so many farms, and he did so much experiments and ended up with so much coffee. And some of it was really good, but some of it tasted, pretty terrible because he was new at it. I was sort of new on buying those kind of coffees. So we just had to be really creative in order to just get those coffees out, whatever way we can. And that's sort of one side of direct trade, that you have a commitment to someone. And I mean, you need to sell their coffee, because once you're committed, you don't want your volumes to go down. I mean, you really want to raise them. And I think you had a question about how do you make it exciting year after year, because I mean, the typical specialty coffee buyer wants something new all the time. And that's also, I mean, that's a tricky part of doing direct trade, because you can't constantly feed people new things. I mean, how creative can you get? I think that's sort of something I struggle with, because a lot of the farmers do a really nice product, but maybe they're just used to doing fully washed, and that's what they do year after year. But at the same time, the customer wants new things all the time, and they sort of get bored of the old stuff. They just want to buy new things. I'm not sure. I mean, Benedikt, do you feel that people want new stuff all the time?
Yeah, I think so. It's I think we have the same experience here. That's maybe the reason why we also buy coffees from other importers, to have a bit more mix on our yearly purchases. So we have a few producers that are constant in our that we sell constantly, but we have quite a few that we change during the years, so that we have not just Finker San Antonio, Finker or Facena Cruzeiro, just a bit more, yeah, something different, definitely. I think it's also for me, and I think also for our team, we need that.
Richard, you've been a lot to Ethiopia, and they don't really have that problem, because it seems that there's a constant flow of new flavors coming from like a country from Ethiopia. I mean, there's a dynamics built in the whole origin of Ethiopia. Don't you agree?
I don't know. I mean, it's a strange one. So I think there's two things that play into it. One is, I mean, Ethiopia from a Arabica point of view is like the genetic home of the crop. So varieties wise, I mean, it probably has about 110 varieties for every variety that any other origin really grows. So just in terms of, it's like mixing paint colors. I don't know. They're working with every color in the rainbow, and most other origins are kind of working with shades of one.
Yeah.
And then I think the other side is, I mean, at the moment, what's really exciting is that 2 or 3 years ago, they brought back traceability into how they could export coffee, and they'd taken that out. So that means that there's a huge range of new producers who are finally kind of experimenting with quality and processing methods and all the rest of it, because they can now establish direct relationships. And that, I mean, that's also one of the fun parts of just having direct relationships between roasters and growers, is that a grower then feels like they can experiment because they can get guidance on, does this or does that work? And okay, does, you know, if I do a natural, but I leave it to dry slightly slower, does the increase in body actually add something for you, or did this make it less suitable for your espresso blend, whatever? I mean, like, it's when it's a reflexive conversation, it's a really great one. And in Ethiopia, that's kind of taken off in the last 2 years, I think, particularly. And that's why I think it is this just amazing, like, at the moment, just treasure chest of like new flavors. But yeah, I don't know. I hope it won't ever stop. But I think it is, like, we're in a particular moment for Ethiopia.
Well, Fabricio, are you a farmer or an exporter or both?
I am a farmer. I was born in a coffee farm. And now I work for SanCoffee as the general manager. We are more a service provider. We are not traders. That since the beginning of 2015, when I firstly met Gilles in Gothenburg, it was, in our opinion, a perfect match, because we are service providers to all growers that we represent. So yes, we export because we need to be an exporter to get coffees out of Brazil. But we are the same page, I would say, that Algrano is, in order to connect these growers that we represent. And also we provide technology and service to roasters like you and Benedikt and others. But yes, I am a coffee farmer, and now I am happy being able to help more coffee farmers here in Brazil.
But I mean, how do you advise them? Because there's so much going on in the coffee industry. I mean, all these different fermentation processes and choice of varieties and stuff like that. I mean, how do you advise the farmers that you work with to do whatever they do?
It's a good question. There are many possibilities to innovate and to bring up new things to the roasters. We are in the specialty coffee industry, and we indeed need to produce new things year after year. But we need to be very careful and while advising the growers to do so. So usually what we do is we do the experiments first, and when we are sure that something works and are suitable to any roaster's needs, we try to replicate and to convince them to try in a little bit larger scale. But everything that we do in order to try something different, we do it in very small scale.
Okay.
And you usually need people to commit to buying that coffee regarding of the result, or how does it work in that way?
Yeah, when it's the experiment phase, we don't need this commitment. But when it's time to scale up any process or any variety, our roasters, they don't need to sign off any contract, but it's good when we can have in advance, ahead of the time, at least an interest that he would be purchasing any coffee if the results replicate is consistent.
And I want to ask one more thing before I share, before we do a demo of something that we're very excited about. I was talking to, I think it was you, Johan, before about uniqueness, because you say like it's very difficult to be special or to be super unique in this specialty industry, because there's a lot of competition, it's very trend based as well. So what I wanted to know is that if sourcing direct, if it helps you find more unique coffees, if it helps you find things that you wouldn't be able to find otherwise, or if it brings you that extra thing that helps you stand out.
Well, I mean, it's one. I mean, it's a really good way of finding unique coffees, of course. And if you buy direct, you know that these coffees are yours. I mean, you know, I cupped a really nice coffee that was sort of on its way to Europe from Kenya. 7 bags. I love the coffee. Called the importer, said, "Hey, I want those 7 bags." And then he said, "Sorry, mate, they're already sold." And that's, I mean, that's a dilemma you come across all the time if you buy spot, because for the really, really nice lots, there's a lot of competition. So, so of course, if you have a direct relationship with the farmer that you can talk to, tell him or her your needs, of course, that's a huge positive thing.
Okay.
And it's too bad that Angel is not here, because I was visiting him in El Salvador 3 months ago, and last year he has a bourbon and a pacamara, and the pacamara, I asked him last year to do a natural, and that was really nice, and then I said this year, okay, now we had that. Well, that was a sample you sent out. And then for this year, I asked him to do a honey, and that's what he did. So of course, I mean, that's amazing that you can then decide whatever he wants. I mean, how he should process his coffee.
And the thing that I was going to say that we're releasing now, like I think we launched it yesterday or today, is precisely what we've been doing with you a lot, Johan, because it's the shipping service. We now have launched it as an automatized service on the platform that people that like you, if they know a producer, they've been in touch, they like the producer's coffee, they can just go to a list of shared shipments, like shared containers, and choose how to move the coffee, talk to the exporters, set the FOB price, and do it a lot more like without needing another person to do it for them. I'm gonna bore you with another quick video. It's gonna be quick, and and it's gonna be the last one, and then we can go to the Q&A. Okay. Okay, I had the sales team fighting for the deal with Luiza's coffee earlier today, because that was fakely generated as well. So I don't know if Richard or Susanna, if you want to say something quick about this feature that we're releasing, because that's like, for me, as I see it, is a step forward toward making direct relationships even easier than what they are now.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Susanna will probably have more to say about it than me, because she's been doing it a lot more. But I think it's great from from the video, I think that the only bit that was not 100% clear is that we do it for two different things. So the first bit we were talking about, if you want to put a number of bags into a container that's already moving, and that's why we have this really nice drop down list of kind of like what containers we already know. And then the second one was, well, if you have an amount that you know you would like to move sort of in isolation, and then we can give you a quote which is on that. And everything is basically priced out more or less by volume, so it kind of scales with the cost of doing the service. So it changes a bit. If you want to do the whole container, it's probably quite a bit cheaper than doing 5 bags, but we always try to make it as reasonable as possible.
Yeah, Richard summed it up pretty well. I think it's really cool that now we can bring those relationships to the platform and make it very efficient for roasters to buy direct from the producers that they're familiar with and they've been buying from for several years already. So I'm really excited about this.
Okay, so thanks, Susanna. We have a few questions here that we can start with our Q&A. So this goes to the roasters. So how important is traceability to your consumers? Do people ask about where the coffees come from, and do they want to know the story of the farms?
Benedikt, do you want to start?
Yeah, I can try. I can try to answer because I'm not sure how interested they are really. But we, I just show you something. We started 2 years ago to produce a bit more content on, let's say, postcards. That's what it is, and try to communicate that stories through those cup profiles that we show with fruit, vegetable, whatever on the front of the map. And our customers, I think they like it a lot because it's more like you drink your coffee and you have a little bit that you can read and you get an idea who's producing the coffee. So we tell the story of the coffee on the back of the card and give them also a receipt for the brewing. And that's something we started 2 years ago, and that works for us pretty good. And I think that the people are definitely interested in it. But you have customers that are interested, and you also have them that are totally not interested. They just want to have some caffeine. So it is what it is, I think. And but in general, we try to communicate as much as possible about the people behind the cup. So for us as a team or as a company, it's pretty important. And to measure the impact on the customer side, I think it's not that easy. So yeah, maybe you have more experience on that, Johan.
I think I think our customers are very similar to yours. I mean, most of them are not very interested, but I hope somehow they feel that I run a company that this is important to. I mean, the relationship side, because there's a lot of pictures of people, you know, and somehow I think the customers understand that these are probably the people behind the coffee. But I sold some coffee, not a lot, but to Asia, and suddenly it's so important. I mean, that whole aspect of how you buy coffee is really, really, really important. So that's a huge difference. But I think what people here in Sweden, they sort of used to smaller specialty roasters telling their customers how good relationship they have with their producers they buy coffee from. So I think they take more or less nowadays take it for granted, I think.
Okay, yeah. We had a question about blends as well. So if you have a blend made of coffees from multiple origins and where the shipment lands at different times of the year, how do you plan that to have always like a consistent coffee that's also fresh?
I don't need my blends to be 100% consistent. I don't think that's a value. I mean, for me, it's fine if they develop. I mean, they might change. I mean, they have sort of the basic, the fundamental taste is always there, but you know, it's not a problem if it changes a bit, as long as it tastes good, you know.
Yeah, I think it's the same here. So we have two blends in our lineup. One is very classic and more, I would say, Northern Italian, but we need that because there's a lot of demand. And the other one is we named the other one Season. So it's the idea of a seasonal espresso blend, and we bring inside what is fresh and what is there. So it's during the year, it's always a bit changing, but it's yeah, that's part of the blend.
And that's part of, I mean, especially well, at least in Sweden, that's what the industrial roasters always said, because you know they had these old recipes from the grandfather and blah blah blah, and they've never been since then. And it's been it's sort of an industrial talk, I think. So I think we need to move away from that and be a little bit flexible. At the same time, you can't lie. If you have descriptors on your coffee bag, of course that has to be true and consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question here. Is that what's your take on how the coffee industry and relationships will change in the future?
Ooh, that's a big question.
First of all,
Richard, do you want to answer that?
Please.
Please.
That is a crazy big question. How are relationships going to change in the future? Yeah, I mean, I could tell you how I hope they're going to change, but I'd like to hear from Johan and Benedikt a bit. Like, that would be my question. Like, how do you hope they'll change? Because, I mean, my hope would be that if there's more communication, then the professionalism I think maybe we've seen from smaller roasters that have kind of stepped up will translate to the other end of the chain, where I don't think it's that growers don't want to be as professional, but maybe they've been excluded from the conversation and therefore haven't understood what it means to be a really good grower for a really professional or demanding roaster. And I think they have every ability to match that, but if they don't know what to do, then it's very hard. And I kind of hope that more direct communication will let them step up to the plate and show just how good they can be. But that requires a feedback between them. And there's my answer. Like, that's my hope, but I don't know if that's what will happen. I'm intrigued. Benedikt, what do you think?
Yeah, from a roaster's perspective. You can talk about the coffee industry in general as well. Do you see it moving more towards relationships? Do you see it being very much samey and not innovating at the moment?
So I think if you look at I think it's hard to look just at the very moment right now, because what I hear from other people in the industry, that it's quite hard to watch too far in the future, because Corona is everywhere, and I think that it will be hard in the next 1 or 2 years purchasing a lot of micro lots. That what I heard, that a lot of larger importers, they focus more on larger lots that are easier to sell, because they have the fear that they buy coffees and the coffees are on stock and they won't sell it because no one knows how the market is developing in the next months. So, and how the cash flow for example for the roasters will be in the next month. For me personally, I think there's no other way than relationship coffee, or minimum a combined way of relationship coffee, and also like we do buying smaller lots that are scoring higher. But I hope that the industry is going minimum after Corona, the way of buying coffee more direct and establishing more relationship between growers and roasters. I think that's, especially in my generation, I think that is definitely a must. So we can talk about globalization and all that big topics without looking also to the relationship between humans in the end.
Johan, do you want to add something?
I think that's always so hard, but I think a lot of like convenience concepts will probably maybe not look into specialty coffee, you know, big chains and stuff like that, but they will definitely move towards like a high commercial quality. I think that's definitely will push forward. And I just hope that, I mean, if you think in the coffee in the cup, I would love to see that you could go to just a cafe and get a decent cup of coffee. I mean, that would be fine for me. That we don't need these specialty coffee store, because there's a huge rift between a specialty coffee store where, you know, you scale down to the milligram when you dose a coffee, and to your standard cafe where most of the time coffee is just not drinkable. It's, you know, it's terrible in the beginning, and then it's heavily dark roasted. So just somewhere meet in the middle where the coffee is just decent.
I would sign that.
Okay, I wanted to ask a quick question. So it's just for my interest from Johan and Benedikt. I'm intrigued. So we're in this kind of weird moment, and I know in the past, when there are issues in the supply, or like after the last crisis, people always talk about people going back and like drinking worse quality to save money. And I get this impression that we've kind of almost had a shift change, and now people might drink a little bit less, but they're not willing to take that step back. And I was kind of intrigued when you're saying you see other people coming into high commercial, because I find that actually hopeful that the consumers maybe made a step change in terms of what they're willing to drink. And I just wondered whether you see that is true, or do you see that in your businesses? And because that would add value to the sustainability of the kind of relationships I guess we're talking about.
Yeah, we definitely see that. What I realized during the Corona, we have a web shop, that you have so many people working from home and ordering coffee to their home, good coffee. So there's a lot of people out there that really appreciate good coffee, and that's been, I mean, the most positive thing about this whole Corona crisis is that there's a lot of specialty coffee consumers out there that I mean, personally, I never get to meet them, but suddenly I get to meet them through my web shop. And, you know, a lot of them buy Brazils and, you know, smooth El Salvadors, but some of them, you know, they like their Congos and the sparkling Ethiopians and stuff like that. That's very promising, I think.
That's the same with Neues Schwarz as well. So we ship a lot more coffee to private consumers in the current situation, definitely. And we, in total, I think we didn't lost in roasted coffee. So we do more or less the same amount, but it's completely shifted from B2B customers to B2C customers, because they sit at home, they have to work at home, and they definitely don't want to go back to the coffee they probably had 5 years ago. Yeah, that's definitely something I can sign as well. Yeah.
Okay, so I think all time's up. I would like to thank everyone who joined. Thanks, Johan. Thanks, Bene, Susanna, Richard, Fabricio. I'm very sad that we couldn't get Angel to join. Thanks, Maria. Well, we'll just a reminder that we'll make this recording available on our blog very soon, and we'll post about it and share the link with you guys so you can watch it in case you want to go back to any part of the conversation. So thank you, everyone, and have a good day. I'll see you soon.
Nice meeting you. Bye.
Bye bye.